I can't believe it. I've been talking all this time and I had the mute button on. So I'm going to start again and I'm going to play this sound that I played when I first started. I apologize to everybody. Thank you, Carol, for letting me know. This sound that you hear right here was the music that played every day for 50 plus years in one form or another when WCBS 880 News would get to the top of the hour and the news broadcast was about to start. But as many of you maybe know by now, that all came to an end a couple of days ago when at midnight WCBS went dark and switched over to sports radio. And for me, I was always a news junkie as a kid, and I always had the dream of being on the radio. And the gold standard in radio was to be on WCBS. And of course, that never happened, and I'm kind of glad that it never did because I wouldn't be sitting here right now, and I'd be out of a job if I had ever made it to WCBS. But it was a shame to see it have to go dark, and the company Intercom shut it down last week, and the announcement was made. And there's so many great journalists over the years who lost a job. And whenever that happens, for me, it's personal. But this was the gold standard. WCBS was always the gold standard. And yes, there's 10-10 wins, which historically always did better financially. But the way it was described by most people was that 10-10 wins was like the tabloid of New York, and WCBS was like the broadsheet of New York, where you got more serious news. Whereas on 10-10 wins, it was always the crime, the murder, the negative things. And WCBS had to reach out far beyond the five boroughs of New York City, and 10-10 wins was more like New York City, and that was kind of where it ended. So the station went dark on Monday morning at midnight. ESPN is now ESPN 880. And I wanted to bring it up today because it was a terrible end to a historic radio station. And there were so many things that this station covered over the years. No less, of course, was 9/11. And you can hear my cat screaming in the background because he's been quiet all day and he knows when I go on the air. But 9/11 was one of those stunning days, of course, in the history of our country. And the way WCBS handled it was just remarkable. I'm going to play a clip of that from that awful day on September 11th, 2001. The voices that you're going to hear are Tom Kaminsky, who was the traffic reporter, and Jeff Kaplan and Pat Carroll. Here's a listen.
Tom Kaminsky, Chopper 880.
All right, Pat, we are just currently getting a look at the World Trade Center. We have something that has happened here at the World Trade Center. We noticed flame and an awful lot of smoke from one of the towers of the World Trade Center. We are just coming up on this scene. This is easily 3/4 of the way up. We are. Whatever has occurred has just occurred within minutes, and we are trying to determine exactly what that is. But currently, we have a lot of smoke at the top of the towers of the World Trade Center. We will keep you posted.
Tom, we just saw that smoke go up at about the same time you did. It was like one huge puff.
That's exactly what we had seen. We had seen what we had turned around. Jeff, we were at the George Washington Bridge. We had seen a fireball, and I can tell you it appears as though something has gone into the World Trade Center. I'm looking at the north side of what I believe, what is the North Tower, so I would guess that's tower number 1. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is about 3/4 of the way up, maybe even 3/4 of the way up Tower 1. There is smoke now billowing out of the top of the World Trade Center. I'm looking at what appears to be broken windows. I want to say that this is about 10 stories down from the top, maybe a little bit more than that. But there now appears to be smoke pouring out of the gash of the north side of the World Trade Center. My heavens, this has just happened within several minutes. Let's try. We're going to try to get a little bit of additional detail about this. But currently, Lower Manhattan is, I would say, as of right now, going to be a big trouble spot, to say the least. The inbound side of the Lincoln, about a 30-minute delay. The Holland, about a 40-minute delay. Let's go back over to Craig Allen,
Tom,
WCBS. Yes.
Before we go to Craig, can we stay with you for a second?
Absolutely,
We're going to describe what we saw, because we have a distant view of the Trade Center from our studio here in Midtown Manhattan. What we saw was one giant plume of smoke, not a very dark color smoke, but a light color smoke.
It was all right. What we had seen, we were at the George Washington Bridge beginning to make our way south. We saw what appeared to be literally a fireball at the top of the World Trade Center. I am just coming up now and looking at the north face of the World Trade Center. It appears, at least from this vantage point, that something has hit it. Something has gone into the World Trade Center. I do not have that confirmed in any way, shape, or form, but there is a gash across, I would want to say, about 10 stories down from the top of the World Trade Center.
All right, Tom.
Sort of from right to left and making its way down. Yes, Jeff?
Okay, we're going to interrupt you here. We've found an eyewitness who's going to talk to us about what they see. Smoke at this point is billowing from that top eighth, let's say, of the one tower.
You know, that was Tom Kaminsky who did most of the talking. That moment when he went live for that traffic report, you have to remember, was about 30 seconds after the first plane hit on September 11th, 2001, 23 years ago. He was right there and watched it go into the first tower, into the North Tower. And you can sort of hear the confusion in his voice, like, what the hell did I just see? Did I see that? And he even made a faux pas and said, I think it's either 3/4 of the way up or maybe even 3/4 of the way up. And there was just that fog of, what, this really didn't just happen, did it? But when you think about that, here he is flying in a helicopter, mere feet away from the tower. We didn't know what was going to happen next that day. And the sheer professionalism of those three, Pat, Jeff, and Tom, was something that stuck with me to this day. I could still hear almost that whole report in my head without even listening to it for hours that day. They were just remarkable. And it's just kind of sad because all these years later, with all the incredible news stories that New York has seen and what we've seen here, even in New Jersey, that station is no more. So I apologize to all of you for indulging me for a minute. I had to start off today's program with a little bit of a retrospective. These guys all lost their jobs. I hope they all find work, including a man, Sean Adams, who was 1 year ahead of me at St. Peter's Prep in high school, and he was with WCBS for as many years as, I guess, after college. He went right there. He was one of the few people who was able to land a job pretty quickly right after college, and he was right there in New York. And so the station is no more. Thank you for letting me just reminisce a little bit about a part of my childhood. I'm just sad that it's gone, and that's where we are today. Now, before we get to the next thing, I just wanted to remind everybody that we will be closed on Monday next week in honor of Labor Day, which means that all of our deadlines will be moved up and classifieds will be due Friday at 2 p.m. at the latest. So if you need to get a classified into the paper, please try to get it to us by 2 o'clock. Once we shut down, that's it. We're going away for the weekend. Can you believe it is Labor Day weekend already? How quickly this year has gone. Now, tonight at 6 p.m. at Harrison High School, the Environmental Protection Agency will be hosting a meeting. This is a meeting that anybody from West Hudson probably will be interested in finding out about. The EPA, in a video that John Pinho posted a couple of months ago, basically said they're going to be taking toxic dredge and dewatering it in the PSE&G site on Frankie Rodgers Boulevard South, which is directly across the street from one of the new Vermella buildings in Harrison and just before the Jackson Street Bridge. And the meeting today at 6 p.m. will take place with EPA officials there, and they're supposed to explain all of this. And when John asked about whether Agent Orange or dioxin would be treated at this plant, the woman from the EPA said yes, very, very clearly. She said yes. And there are some thoughts that maybe that was a misspeak or whatever it was. But John went down into that area last week and filmed a video of this, and I'm going to show it to you now, of just how close this area is where they propose to put this to residential buildings. Without any further ado, here it is.
So this is Vermella Harrison, and down there is Steelworks, and across the street here is the proposed EPA toxic sludge plant for the dewatering of Agent Orange. And you can see the sun is, see the sun. That's the public service building. It goes all the way down to the PAT station. So all this side here is going to be, is proposed to be used. You can see the train in the background as well. This is now a residential community. And this public service property was cleaned up. $367 to $400 million. So I'm going to cross over to show you the buildings. Sorry for the sun, but I'm here at 6 o'clock at night. And so you can see they planted trees, and this is Vermella. Of course, we've got the Red Bulls in Harrison, and you can hear the train. It's the path. Can't see it because the sun backlit. So this is Vermella. Loud car. And that's Steelworks. So on August 29th, 2022, I was at a Harrison redevelopment meeting, and Mayor Fife, after I was questioning him about lack of green space, made a statement that I've put online several places, that EPA is going to use the property of public service and to dewater toxic, he said, dredge, but it's sludge. It's basically the same thing. So I immediately was like, couldn't believe what I heard. And then I had the time and was actually recording the meeting that was on Zoom for some reason. Usually you don't do that, but that meeting, somehow someone was telling me to record. So, and then they have since denied that statement, and I've been going to meetings for 2 years straight trying to get them to change the oppose EPA's plan because of this here. These buildings, they go back. I'm going to go down that street. You go all the way to the Wildies, the Cobalt Lofts, and you've got Red Bulls. Why the mayor and James Doran, who's councilman with several titles, including Harrison Public Schools director, used to be the superintendent, why they would allow EPA to come to Harrison with a toxic sludge plant is perplexing to me, to put it nicely. So here's the area that EPA wants to use. This has been decontaminated and is no longer a contaminated property. And it should not be used by EPA. They can go up or down to South Kearney, and there are properties in South Kearney that's industrial that they could use to build a state-of-the-art plant. But this is not where the plant should be. You can see the distance between the plant and the buildings. Just across the street. Why would EPA, who has assisted in helping clean up Harrison and these properties here, want to have a sludge plant here rather than in South Kearney. I don't know, but maybe it's easier for them, but that's not the point. If there's a discharge, you have hundreds of people that are in this residential community, and they would be exposed to Agent Orange, which is highly toxic and causes birth defects, causes all sorts of cancers. Google it. Why would they?
Now, I'm not going to show you the whole thing because a lot of it is just repetitive. John's walking around for a while, but I think it's also important to note we don't being exposed to Agent Orange is a little bit. There would probably have to be a leak or some kind of accident for that to happen. But the point is this: the bottom line is that that they said that this is going to go there. Now you have to decide for yourself. You have to go to the meeting tonight. I will be there to cover it, and it's very important, I think, for anybody from West Hudson to be there to see what the actual plans are. The actual plans have not been fully released. They've only made some statements. They have not said exactly how they're going to do this. I would think the backlash is going to be pretty significant if indeed what they're going to do is take Agent Orange or any kind of dioxin and dewater it in this on this property. You know, that is a property that was there for all these years. Across the street was vacant, horrible land for so many years. Let's see what happens. I think it's important for everybody to be at that meeting tonight. And if you want to see the rest of the video, you can just go onto YouTube and Google and search John Pinho, and you'll find the video. It's the most recent one. And again, most of what you would have seen in the rest of the video is basically John walking around and talking about what he talked about in the earlier part of the video. So again, the meeting's tonight at 6 p.m. at Harrison High School. I hope you'll consider going, but if you cannot, for whatever the reason, we will be there. We have you covered, and we will report back to you as soon as we know what the situation truly is, and it's going to be interesting to say the very least. Now, there's just one more thing that I'd like to get to today, and that's this week's front page story. Christine Jablonski, as many of you know, died a few months ago while she was out in Utah with her family skiing, and she was one of the greater people in this world. She was such a wonderful human being. She died way too young, and right after she died, maybe hours, Mayor Carol Jean Doyle said, "I want to name the branch library in her memory." And last week, that's exactly what happened. And Judge Jeff Jablonski was there last week, as were her two children. The mayor was there, and Josh Humphrey, who is the director of the library, and now forever, the branch library will be known as the Christine Ferry Jablonski Branch Library. Just a remarkable dedication and a beautiful ceremony. Jeff's speech was tremendous, and he did it all from the cuff. He was so good, and so was Mayor Doyle. She gave a beautiful speech, all of which the mayor's speech will be in this week's edition of The Observer, and a few clips from Jeff as well. So we miss Christine. She was a true soul. Got a chance to meet her mother and her aunt, and what an honor that was to meet them. You can just tell they were just so much like Christine, so peaceful, so kind and welcoming, and I miss her very, very much. And I know Jeff and the boys do as well. So our thoughts are with them during this difficult time. And don't you know, the day of the dedication was the same day that her ashes were interred, and also it was their anniversary. It would have been, I believe, their 29th anniversary. So God rest her soul, Christine Jablonski. The dedication to the branch library, now in her memory and her honor, will forever bear her name. There are, of course, two sports stories this week from Jason Bernstein and Classified, so don't forget to check those out. And then we will report back to you once we know what's going on with this EPA meeting tonight at 6 p.m. Whether we'll be live today or tomorrow, I'm not sure, but at some point we will bring you that update once we get a better picture of what's going on. And then, of course, if anything else breaks during the course of the week, we will join you then as well. From the home studio today, it's Kevin Canessa signing off for now, and we hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.